Kenya continues to mourn the death of veteran politician and multi-party democracy crusader Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba, who passed on last night at the Karen Hospital a few minutes after 6 p.m. after a long illness, and he had been admitted there for a couple of weeks. Now, condolences continue to pour in from leaders and Kenyans from all walks of life, and the conversation is growing. Kenyans are talking about whether Kenya has remained true to what Matiba fought for and the ideals of this doyen of opposition politics. Well, we are live for you in different locations today. We are live for you at the Lee Funeral Home, where Jackie Mariba will be giving us an update shortly. We're also live for you in Murang'a County as well. And shortly we'll be talking to a gentleman who is the second longest political detainee, former Subukia Member of Parliament, Koigi Wawamwere, live from Nakuru County, as we endeavor to give you the best coverage of the death of a man who was the first among equals. Here are some pictures just to refresh your memory about this great man. Truly a sad day for the nation. Shortly, I'll be talking to the Senator Murang'a County, Rungu Kangata, who will also be sending his condolences live on this program. But before that, Kenyans continue to mourn veteran politician and second liberation icon Kenneth Matiba, who died yesterday. Matiba passed on at the Karen Hospital in Nairobi, where he was undergoing treatment.
He is regarded as a hero. Kenneth Matiba, one of the men who fought for the second liberation, a fight that peaked in the 1990s. Family sources say Matiba passed away at the Karen Hospital here in Nairobi, where he has been receiving treatment for the past 3 weeks. The men and women who stood up for democracy to fight one-party rule are the height of retired President Daniel Arap Moi's leadership.
29th of December, 1992.
Matiba became a senior civil servant at age 31. Before Kenya attained its independence in December 1963, he became the first indigenous African Permanent Secretary for Education in May of that year. In 1964, he was appointed Permanent Secretary for Commerce under the then Minister Mwai Kibaki and later served in retired President Moi's government. But as Moi tightened his grip on power, alienating those he felt were disloyal, voices of dissent became louder. Matiba, alongside politician Charles Rubier, came out openly to criticize Moi's style of leadership. Matiba, who founded the Forum for Multi-Party Democracy with other like-minded politicians, was held without trial at the Committee Maximum Security Prison in 1990 with Charles Rubier. While in prison, Matiba was refused medication and suffered a stroke which affected half his body and incapacitated him for some time. Later, a multi-party system was instituted and Matiba was released. The former cabinet minister and opposition leader made a stab at the presidency twice but lost to retired President Daniel Moi. More recently, Matiba has been dogged by ill health stemming from his 1990 imprisonment. This including hospitalization in 2017 that saw President Kenyatta visit him in hospital.
Very good fight, thank you. Well. I don't know what my word. What can I say?
And obviously our deepest condolences to his family and close friends at this time, and of course the whole nation as well. And to get further reactions on this, let's now bring in former Subuki, a member of parliament. He has also been a political activist for many years, and I believe the second longest running political detainee, of course in the 1980s and also in the 1990s as well. Kenyans Mours, thank you so much for joining us today in the program, Honorable.
Good morning to you. I'm quite fine. And I hope you are too.
Yes, I am okay, of course, bearing in mind what happened yesterday. I can give you a brief moment just to send your condolences to the family of the late Matiba.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I would like to take this opportunity to pass my condolences to the family of the late Matiba, and also condole with the entire nation, because Matiba belonged not just to his family but to the entire country, and I'm quite sure that the whole nation is mourning with the family of Mr. Matiba. And so I want them to understand that we are all together in mourning Matiba, and generally the loss which is the loss of a very great person that Kenya will miss for a very long time.
Honorable Wamwere, there is a younger generation that did not get to see Matiba, whether on TV or on at a political rally. Briefly, what sort of man was he?
I think Matiba was a man of great determination. I knew him when we were in parliament together, and of course he had become famous by that time after knocking down, I think it was Keano, who was the MP before him.
That's correct.
And so we stayed with him for some time in Parliament, after which I was myself detained, and he continued to be in Parliament and was later also appointed as minister. People knew him as a great sports person who I understand tried even to climb Mount Everest. So in short, you say that he was a man of great determination, and he was also a hero of this country on account of the fact that he did sacrifice his life to be able to fight for second liberation in this country, for multi-party democracy against the one-party dictatorship.
Honorable Amwere, you'll forgive me for taking you back to those dark days, but you've mentioned determination. Talk to us about the mental strength that is needed to come out of the sort of detention that you and Honorable Matiba went through. What did it take for you to try and piece your life together again? And that can help us understand a bit more about Honorable Matiba.
Let me say that once you become an enemy of the state, because you have to be the enemy of the state to be taken to detention, which is a special form of imprisonment, where you are exposed to all manner of problems, including disease, where you are tortured with many things, including disease again, with bad food, being put on the floor. You are not given a bed to sleep in, where you are completely isolated from the rest of the prison where you are detained, or even isolated from your fellow detainees, a place where even askaris are not supposed to talk with you at all, a place where you don't have any privacy. When you are going to, for instance, for a shower or to take a bath, the askaris will come and observe you. A place where you are isolated for 23.5 hours every day, only allowed 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon to just stretch your feet. Otherwise, you are permanently in isolation and segregation from the rest of the population. Now, to be put in a place where you are not even allowed to speak to askaris who serve you, or who supervise your torture and mistreatment, you need to be very, very strong. Otherwise, it's very easy to collapse and get attacked. And here it's important to mention that disease, which is a big enemy of detainees, is you are exposed to it deliberately by a government that believes that mosquitoes in detention are a part of the prison system, by a system that believes that if you have malaria, your body should be able to take care of you, and not be given any medication.
Truly,
a system that
truly some of the political freedoms.
What I'm saying is that
yes, go ahead.
You have no political freedoms. You have nothing, and you need to be very, very strong to come out of that place alive.
Finally, with that background in mind, what sort of Kenya did the late Matiba envision, fight for, and can you say that he got to see it before he passed on?
I think Matiba was, and it's not a matter of thinking. For sure, Matiba was fighting for a Kenya that would be democratic and where everybody would be able to enjoy 3 meals a day, a place where people would be equal and where they would enjoy all their rights and freedoms, and and especially freedom to change their government in freedom. And here, may I mention, if you allow me, that this is not the Kenya that Matiba has left behind at the moment of his death yesterday. And here, let me mention, I was a bit embarrassed when I listened to the statement by the head of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta, on Matiba, because I thought that the president would have been frank enough to say that Matiba was killed by KANU government when it was in power and when they detained him, that he was killed by detention, and that ultimately he was killed by the one-party dictatorship. When we refuse to own up to such a fact, it means that we are not ready to fight to bring about the sort of changes that Matiba fought for, was detained for, and finally died for. And also I want to mention that in the remaining period when the entire nation will be mourning,
yes, I
hope that President Moi will have courage enough not only to send his condolences to the family of Mr. Matiba, but also to apologize for his detention and his eventual death, because ultimately it was because of Moi's KANU one-party dictatorship that Matiba was detained and finally was exposed to disease, and had finally to die of the same weaknesses that he brought home from detention.
Thank you so much, Honorable Koigi Wamwere, former Subuki Member of Parliament, political activist, second longest running political detainee as well. Spoken very courageous words at this moment, and of course also asked some very hard questions on the same note. Well, let me briefly get a reaction in studio from my guest. Joining me in studio, we have Ringu Kangata, Senator Murang'a County and Deputy Chief Whip. You've heard those words. And I can begin by giving you a chance just to send your condolences as well to the family of the late Matiba. He came from your county, Murang'a County, and he was a legislator there as well. Can give you a chance now to send your message of condolence.
Let me take this opportunity to extend my deep sorrow to the death of the late icon of democracy, that is Kenneth Matiba Jindo. Incidentally, we come from the same village. Matiba comes from a village called Gadhenja in Kahuhia. This is where I also come from. He served as a member of parliament for Keharu. I also did serve a member of parliament for Keharu. When I was growing up, that is in 1980s and 1990s, he was a household name. Every day we would always discuss about him in our family.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Because that was the time where he was now at the epicenter fighting for a better Kenya. Did
you get a chance to personally meet him, having come from the same village?
Yes, indeed. Several times, but more often than not, he was at the top echelon of politics.
Okay.
Yes.
By the time, of course, you were getting into politics as well yourself. And I want to ask some of the same questions. Let's talk a bit about Murang'a County. At this moment, what do you think can be done to honor a man like him?
Several things. Number one, I would propose that we have several projects that are going to be named after him. In particular, envisage projects that were dear to Matiba. Matiba was very dear in terms of issues concerning water. I recall when I was a young person, Matiba walked all the way from Nairobi to Murang'a town and something that was called Mbiri Water Walk. His vision then was to have every household in Murang'a, in Keharu constituency,
which was then named Mbiri.
Yes, running water. That vision is yet to be realized so many years after he did that work. I would propose that the current projects which are ongoing concerning water be hastened, and once they are completed, we ensure we leave a place for Matiba. That's number one. Number two, there's also another road that is being proposed to be done from Kenot all the way to Nyeri. I would propose, yes, they want to dual the side of Makoyo, but also they should also dual the side of Murang'a town, and once they do that, they name that road in honor of Matiba, because that would be a road that would be going all the way to his ancestral place, that is in Kahuhia region. Yes.
There's a lot of plans and a lot of talk about what can be done to honor Matiba, but of course all this coming after he passed on. What could we have done as a nation to honor him when he was alive? We know that he was a great businessman who had a lot of interests, but all those, he seems to have lost all his wealth, from one reason or the other, and many say that the nation neglected him. Do you share the same view, that as Kenyans we almost forgot about him, and now it's like, oh my gosh, look at what this man did, we need to do all these projects?
Yes, with me here in my phone, I have a petition that I presented in the National Assembly when I became a member of Parliament for Keharu, where I was seeking the National Assembly to make something that is going to be dedicated to Matiba. In fact, I was also seeking compensation. But then again, we had now to go to courts and seek a legal intervention for Matiba to be compensated. Up to now, that money has not even been paid. So therefore, I would urge the government to intervene to ensure that money is paid to Matiba. But then again, that money is also very little. Matiba was a very wealthy person. He had a lot of interest in hospitality industry, in education industry, and all those businesses collapsed because of what happened in 1990.
Okay.
So therefore, I would urge, one, that case be hastened, that compensation be given, and probably it should be doubled. Okay. Because what he got is about 1 billion. Vis-a-vis his wealth was about 5 billion. So therefore, I don't think Matiba was adequately compensated by the courts. So the government should top up that amount to ensure Matiba and his children live a dignified life. Because what he did, there is no other Kenyans in the history of this country, maybe probably Dedan Kimathi, who underwent what Matiba went. Because he paid the ultimate price with his own health. And you see, it is something that affected him for so many years. His own property, he lost a lot of property. And that is why we are saying he's a real icon.
Okay. You're the Deputy Chief Whip, and of course you belong to the Jubilee Party. You've heard what Koigi Wawamwere has to say. He says that the Kenya that Matiba fought for is not the Kenya that we live in today. What would you say about that? That there are certain ideals that Matiba fought for, but they have not been actualized in this day and age?
Of course, democracy is work in progress. You cannot get it within 1 hour, one minute. No, it is work in progress. But I think what Matiba fought for, so many people are currently enjoying those fruits. A good example is like you. If you can recall, in 1990s, we only used to listen to KBC, isn't it? Now we have Citizen TV, we have NTV, we have KTN. That is something that directly connected to the work of Matiba. He fought for the liberalization of this country. So therefore, one saying that Matiba did not accomplish anything, I disagree.
Or did not live to see what he fought for.
No. I think there is a lot we can say Matiba achieved through that fight.
Okay.
Or liberalization of the economy, liberalization of political space. In fact, currently, even Uhuru Kenyatta and all those people who became president after Moi, they can attribute that to the courage of Matiba in 1990. Okay.
But do you think, or what do you think would have been Honorable Matiba's thoughts about what we've seen in the country between last year and this year? We have seen some events, nevertheless, Senator, that have been worrying, even internationally as well. Freedom of the press, there have been certain challenges in regards to that. The treatment of certain individuals, I don't think I need to go into details. Again, those are not room for concern for men like Matiba. You've heard what Koigi has to say. Yesterday we had Jeru Kadhangu here also saying the same thing, that there are concerns about freedom and liberty in this country.
Yes, it is true. But again, I want to reiterate my contention that this is work in progress. Yes, indeed, that we must ensure those democratic values, they are cemented. No wonder we have a new constitution. The whole idea was to anchor those freedoms, those gains, to ensure they are institutionalized. And therefore, to a certain extent, yes, there are some areas that we need to work on to ensure we perfect our democracy. But then again, I also know there's no democracy that has been built within 10, 20 years. Like the places like America, UK, those are very old democracies. They have reached that age after 200 years of trying to change various aspects of that democratic space. But on the other hand, I think we also need to celebrate what ground that we have covered, which includes a free media, a new constitution, a better economy. I think those are things that we need to celebrate, and which are directly linked to the struggle of Matiba in 1990. Okay.
Although there are those who say it's debatable, but we'll leave that discussion for now. When you look at the current political class, do you see the spirit of Matiba in them? What would be your thoughts about that? When you look at Parliament, when you look at Senate, when you look at our leadership structure as a whole in the nation, what lessons can we learn from the late Matiba?
Well, the spirit of Matiba lives on. A person like me, I was inspired into politics by Matiba. So therefore, I am a living evidence that Matiba spirit lives on. A person like Uhuru Kenyatta, if you can recall, I think Uhuru Kenyatta has said publicly, in 1992, quite a majority of his family supported Kibaki. But he himself decided to support Matiba. And now he is the president of this country. So we can say, in Uhuru Kenyatta, we see a spirit of Matiba. Even the oppositionists, we have seen people like Raila Odinga going to pay homage to Matiba. I saw Rengo going to pay homage to Matiba. So therefore, I think the spirit of Matibaism will never die, God willing. As to maybe senators and governors and maybe other leaders, yes, it is true. I've seen even in our county, there's a hospital that has been named after Matiba. That shows everyone somehow, in his heart of hearts, believes Matiba occupies a special place in this country. So to a certain extent, and in answer to your question, the spirit of Matiba lives on.
The spirit of Matiba lives on. There's danger, or there is a danger, that after Matiba is buried, the nation will move on. We'll go back to talk of 2022. The status quo will remain. What must be done to ensure that we use this moment to appreciate Kenya's heroes, those at least that are alive, and of course the families of those who already passed on?
There is a law that was passed by last parliament, which I was a member to, that is about heroes, which was proposing to set up a certain fund to ensure people are compensated, to ensure a procedure of recognizing a hero is clearly demarcated. I think we need to ensure that law is effectuated. It's no longer a textual law. It is something that has direct impact on heroes. So I think the first and foremost duty from where I sit would be to ensure that law indeed is effected. It is effective. And that would be a starting point. Number two, I think also, and most importantly, we need to ensure a better Kenya is achieved. And no wonder I'm celebrating the so-called handshake between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, because the bottom line of that handshake was to ensure we have a more cohesive Kenya, a more united Kenya, and that is the legacy of Matiba. Matiba was not a tribalist. If you can recall, the members of parliament who were elected on a Ford Asili ticket in 1992, they came from all over country. Unlike, let's say, for instance, the Ford Kenya, which was a Western party, or even, let's say, like DP, which was also a regional party. Matiba had support even in Busia, in several constituencies in Western region. He was able to marshal support. So to me, to that extent, this handshake, the rationale of the handshake is to bring Kenyans together. That is the whole idea, the best legacy we can give to Matiba.
Okay, thank you so much. I can give you a chance just to send your, share your final comment on this particular matter, even as you continue to send your condolences to the family of the late Matiba.
I think number one, we have other heroes who are in that battlefront with
The
Kenneth
second
Matiba.
liberation.
One of them is Charles Rubia. I am representing Charles Rubia in court, fighting for his compensation.
Okay.
I would urge the Attorney General not to really oppose that suit. There's a way in law one can compromise a suit. You can settle matters out of court. I think in honor of Kenneth Matiba, I would urge the Attorney General to settle the case of Charles Rubia out of court.
Okay.
I recall the other day we were in court, and I was quite saddened to see Attorney General insisting that Charles Rubia must come to court and testify. He's a very old man, 90-something. Indeed, he came, and God is good that he is in good health. But I could see the State Council surely cross-examining him. It was like relieving.
Was it really necessary?
It was not necessary. There are legal ways to circumvent that. And from where I sit, I think even Charles Rubia needs to be remembered. There were two when they made that pronouncement that Kenya should have a multi-party system. They were arrested together.
Yes,
and therefore, Charles Rubia also deserves a good place in history, and that can be commenced through probably that case being compromised and him being paid his rightful dues.
Okay.
You don't have to go to court to vindicate your rights as a hero in this country. That is my observation. Number two, the people of Muranga leadership, we shall be meeting to see what we can do. I have done a communication to members of parliament through our own social group to see what we can do. We meet as leaders from Muranga County. We see what interventions we are going to do to ensure we give a hero's send-off for Matiba.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for finding time to be here with us. That was Muranga Senator Rungu Kangata, Deputy Chief Whip as well. Thank you so much. And of course, I know you have a lot that you need to get to, and we'll release you at this moment. Of course, we have had different leaders sending their tributes and condolence messages to the family of the late Kenneth Matiba. This is what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say last night. All right, let's just take you through the life of the late Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba. We have tried to piece together as much of his life as we can. Of course, this is just a snapshot of his life. He lived a very rich life, and we may have skipped some details, but this will just give you a rough idea of the man that he was. He was born on the 1st of June, 1932 in Kahohia, that's in Muranga County. In terms of education, he attended Alliance High School, and coincidentally, it is there that he met his future wife, Edith Matiba. Thereafter, from Alliance, he proceeded to Makerere University, and coincidentally, his future wife also attended that same university, and they got to know each other better then. He graduated from Makerere University with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, Geography and History in 1960, came back to the country, and in terms of his career, he began as a teacher at Kangaru High School. That's in 1960. In 1961, he was an officer, higher education. And in 1963, he was the first indigenous African permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education. But in 1964, he was then moved to commerce under Mwai Kibaki, former President Mwai Kibaki. In terms of sports involvement, he was the chairman of the Kenya Football Federation from 1974 to 1978. At some point, I must let you know, he did decide to leave the civil service and went into private business. It said that he had shared concerns that a lot of people were using their positions in the civil service to enrich themselves, and he felt that is not the way to go. He decided to go into business. He had interests. He established the Alliance Group of Hotels in the South Coast. He invested in the education sector, Hillcrest Preparatory and Hillcrest Secondary School. Hillcrest Preparatory was actually started by someone else, but he then bought into it. And of course, he was a shareholder in various companies, and he also had some interest in the horticultural industry. He had a large farm as well. And those are, I've mentioned just a bit about his business interests. Let's take a look at his political career. 1979 to 1988, he was the MP for Biri, which later on was renamed as Kiharu constituency. The current MP is Dindi Nyoro. In 1983, he was appointed the Minister for Culture and Social Services. He was also, later on, the Minister of Transport and Communications, Minister for Health as well. And in 1988, he abruptly resigned, handed over his resignation letter, or had someone hand over his resignation letter to the then President Daniel Arap Moi. Now, the rain began beating him, so to speak, in 1990. He was detained without trial at the Committee Maximum Security Prison for demanding the reintroduction of multi-party democracy together with Charles Rubia. He was actually picked up in town in the Central Business District, while Charles Rubia was picked up in Muthai, at a country club rather, and they spent about a year or so in detention. He was released in 1991, but of course he had suffered a stroke while in detention and did not get medical treatment for at least a week. And that then explains the kind of challenges he faced thereafter. Now, if you fast forward to last year, he was awarded at least 504 million Kenya shillings for wrongful detention. But once he appealed and the costs were recalculated, the court thereby later on awarded him 945 million Kenya shillings. Let's talk a bit about his presidential bid. In 1992, he finished second in the presidential election behind former President Moi. And in 1997, he boycotted the December election and burnt his voters' card, saying that there's no democracy in the nation. In 2007, and this might come to a surprise to some of you, he did actually vie, did not campaign much, if at all, and he garnered about 8,000 votes in that disputed election. He had various media interests. He founded the People newspaper in 1992, which became a daily in 1998. Some of you may have also gotten a chance to read his autobiography, Aiming High, which was released in the year 2000. In terms of family, he was married to Edith Wanjiru Matiba in 1961. They have 5 children. That's Susan, Raymond, Ivy, Julie, and Gitao. And of course, he passed on yesterday, a few minutes after 6 p.m. at the Karen Hospital. He had been there for a couple of weeks. Some media outlets are reporting he had been registered in the hospital under a pseudonym. He was being treated there by Dr. Gikonyo and of course the staff at the Karen Hospital. But his daughter, Ivy, confirmed to the media that at a few minutes after 6 p.m. he breathed his last, and the end of a great man. And of course, a lot of leaders have taken to social media and have, of course, sent messages of condolence, tributes to media houses. Let's take a look at some of them. David Kenani Maraga, the Chief Justice of Kenya, says Matiba was an exceptional leader who distinguished himself from an early age as a meticulous manager, an astute businessman, and a charismatic politician. Kenyans will always be grateful for the crucial role he played in the struggle for the introduction of multi-party democracy in our country. Let's take a look at several others. And of course, you can send us your messages on 22422 and use the hashtag CitizenExtra. Gitobu Imanyara, human rights lawyer, politician. A giant has fallen. Kenneth Matiba is no more. May he find eternal rest. Deputy President William Ruto, the country grieves a great man. As the cloud of sadness envelopes us, we pay respect and undying tribute to Kenneth Matiba, an indefatigable proponent of democracy, human rights, a champion of the less privileged, and a people's person. Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper leader, his bravery, or rather One Kenya movement, his bravery, steadfastness, and personal sacrifice, even in the face of great threats against his life, will forever be etched onto the minds of Kenyans who cherish democracy and freedom. We have Musalia Mudavadi, ANC leader. Matiba was an icon of the corporate world, government and politics. He stranded the 3 worlds with ease. He was unapologetic as a politician. While politics destroyed his health and put a strain on family and his livelihoods, he died stoic in the knowledge that Kenyans enjoy the freedoms he fought for. All right, Donald Kipkorir, a lawyer, advocate of the High Court. If our mourning of Kenneth Matiba is to be meaningful, Kenyans ought to agree that we will never allow anyone to be harassed, arrested, deported, or their business harmed because of politics. Brave words there. Ambassador Amina Mohammed, Education, CS. I have learnt of the passing of Honorable Kenneth Matiba with a profound sense of loss. A man of rare courage and noble bearing, Honorable Matiba has paid the ultimate price for the second liberation of our country. All right, let's take a few more here. Chris Kirubi, a businessman. It is with our profound sorrow and a heavy heart that I have learnt of the untimely demise of our iconic leader, Honorable Kenneth Matiba. He played a crucial role in shaping the political landscape of our nation. As a veteran of multi-party democracy, sincere condolences to his family. And the governor of Mombasa County, Hassan Ali Joho, I am deeply saddened by the passing on of the second liberation hero, Kenneth Matiba. He will be remembered for his contribution in the amendment of the Constitution that paved way for the reintroduction of multi-party democracy. All right, and Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, I received with sadness the demise of former Minister and Kiharu MP, Honorable Kenneth Matiba. The veteran politician will be remembered for his fight for multi-party democracy that we are all enjoying now. Right, after those condolence messages, we take a short break. We'll be right back with more updates. And shortly, we'll be taking you to the Lee Funeral Home, where they received the body of the late Matiba last night. And of course, we expect a lot of leaders, politicians, and of course, family members to be there today just to be able to reconcile with the fact that this great man is no more. We'll be taking you live there shortly. Stay with Citizen Extra. We'll have all updates for you regarding the very sad passing on of Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba. We'll be right back.